the tides of summer. It was a sweltering July afternoon when I hugged my best friend Lila in front of my house. She towered over me, her long brown hair cascading in waves with blonde tips brushing her shoulders. Her skin was tanned from hours spent outdoors, and her athletic build made her look even more imposing compared to my small frame. We hadn't hung out outside of school in a while, so I was thrilled to see her. "Hey, you'll never guess," she said, smiling as she pulled away from the hug. "My cousin just moved in next door. I think you two are gonna hit it off." "Really?" I asked, intrigued. "Let me grab my shoes." I darted inside to put on my sneakers. At 14, I was about to start my freshman year of high school. My short black hair, which I had just cut myself, was choppy and uneven, but I liked it. Experimenting with my look was becoming my thing, even if it didn't always turn out perfectly. Lila and I walked down the street to her house, which wasn't far. As we approached, I noticed a girl sitting in the yard. She had dirty blonde hair and was wearing thick glasses, a yellow tank top and shorts. She was taller than me, but most people were. I'd been 4 feet 10 inches for as long as I could remember. "This is my cousin, Sam," Lila introduced me. Sam got up, full of energy, and gave Lila a big hug before turning to me with an eager grin. "Nice to meet you." Before I could even respond, Sam grabbed my hand and pulled me toward her house. A cute yellow home with a brick porch and stone steps. Inside, the space was cozy. A bed sat in front of the stairs, and there was a TV perched on one of the light blue steps. Sam turned on her Xbox and I sat next to her, watching as she loaded up Minecraft. "You play?" she asked, handing me a controller. "I'm more of a PlayStation person," I admitted, but I didn't mind. I quickly learned the controls and we spent hours building, talking, and laughing. Sam had 4 dogs who immediately took to me. 2 were medium-sized, one was smaller and black and white, and the smallest was a black pug. They crowded around us, wagging their tails. Over the next few weeks, Sam, Lila, and I became inseparable. We formed a tight-knit trio, spending most of our summer together. By the time school started, everyone knew we were best friends. But something felt different between Sam and me. I couldn't quite explain it. I felt closer to her than I had to anyone else. There was this connection, an unspoken bond that made me want to be around her all the time. As the school year went on, we continued our weekend sleepovers, where we'd stay up late watching anime. Our shared favorite was Vampire Night. I remember one night after Sam fell asleep, I stayed up and kept watching, feeling this strange sense of contentment just being there with her. It was the kind of peace I hadn't felt before, like everything made sense when we were together. But life wasn't always that simple. Sam started to get more secretive, and I noticed she wasn't opening up to me as much. When we hung out, she'd seem distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. I tried to brush it off, but the distance between us grew, and it hurt more than I was willing to admit. I found myself questioning whether she felt the same way about me that I did about her. One evening, I found out why Sam had been pulling away. She had started talking to people online, and not just making friends. She was caught up in a whirlwind of online relationships that seemed to come and go faster than I could keep track. It didn't take long for things to take a darker turn. She began to struggle with the weight of all these connections, and when I noticed the marks on her arms one day, my heart sank. "I didn't mean for you to see that," Sam said quietly when I asked her about it. She tried to laugh it off, but I could see the pain in her eyes. "I'm here for you, Sam," I told her, feeling helpless. I had gone through my own battles with self-harm in the past, and seeing her hurting made me feel like I wasn't doing enough to protect her. I didn't want her to go through what I had. Our friendship hit a rough patch after that. I was worried all the time, worried about Sam, about whether our friendship was falling apart, about the complicated feelings I was beginning to realize I had for her. I didn't know how to handle it all. And Sam, for her part, was closing herself off more and more. The late-night conversations we used to have started to disappear, replaced by awkward silences and half-hearted reassurances that everything was fine. Then one night everything changed. We were sitting on her bed, the Xbox humming softly in the background, when Sam finally opened up. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I keep pushing people away and I hate it. But I don't know how to stop." I looked at her, my heart aching for her. "You're not alone, Sam. You don't have to go through this by yourself." For the first time in what felt like forever, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm scared. I'm scared of how much I need you." It was then that I realized how deeply my feelings for her had grown. I wasn't just her friend, I was in love with her. But I didn't know how to tell her that without ruining everything. So I said the only thing I could. "I need you too." From that moment on, things between us shifted. We didn't label what we had, but we both knew it was more than just friendship. We were there for each other in ways that went beyond words. The world outside didn't matter as much as long as we had each other. Sam began to trust me again, letting me in little by little, and I did the same. We weren't perfect, and we had our share of tough moments, but we faced them together. That summer felt like the beginning of something new for both of us. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other, and for the time being that was enough. As the days of that summer stretched on, Sam and I grew closer than ever. It felt as though we were creating our own little world, one where we didn't need to explain what we were to anyone else, because the way we felt about each other was too raw, too delicate to put into words. The sun-drenched afternoons turned into long nights where we'd sit outside her house on the porch, watching the stars come out one by one, just talking about everything and nothing. It wasn't always easy, though. There were moments when the weight of our feelings was too much for either of us to bear. I could tell Sam struggled with the intensity of it all. She would sometimes pull back again, shutting me out as if she was afraid of getting too close. And I, for all my longing to be there for her, didn't always know what to say or do to make her feel safe. One night, just as the summer was drawing to a close, Sam opened up to me in a way she never had before. We were sitting on the porch steps, the cool breeze ruffling the leaves around us, when she spoke quietly. "I think I'm afraid," she said, not looking at me. "Afraid of what this means us." I didn't say anything for a moment. I had been feeling the same fear, wondering if what we had was something more, something real, and what that might mean for our future. Sam's voice was so vulnerable, so fragile, that my heart broke a little as I listened. "I don't know how to explain it," she continued, her gaze fixed on the ground. I don't want to lose you, but I don't know if I can be the person you need me to be." I reached out and gently took her hand in mine. Her fingers were trembling, and I squeezed them softly. "You don't have to be anything for me, Sam," I whispered. "I don't want you to feel like you have to figure this all out right now. I just want you to be you. And I'll be here." Sam looked at me, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. "I'm scared that people won't understand. That maybe I don't even understand it yet. Who cares what other people think?" I said, my voice firmer than I had intended. "We don't owe anyone an explanation. We'll figure it out together at our own pace." There was a long pause, and then Sam smiled. A small, hesitant smile that I hadn't seen in a while. "Thank you," she whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder. "For everything." That night felt like a turning point. We both understood that this thing between us was real, even if it scared us. We spent the rest of the night in silence, her head resting against me as the stars twinkled above. The weight of the world seemed lighter when we were together. As the school year began, the days of summer faded into the past, but Sam and I stayed as close as ever. Still, it wasn't always easy. High school brought with it its own set of challenges, new friends, new pressures, and the constant feeling that we were walking a tightrope, balancing between friendship and something deeper. Lila, my best friend who had introduced me to Sam, seemed to notice the shift between us, though she never said anything outright. Sometimes I'd catch her watching us with a knowing look, as if she could sense what was going on. But she was never the type to pry, and for that I was grateful. Sam's relationship with her family was complicated. Her mom was supportive but distant, often working long hours. Her stepdad was nice enough, but he wasn't the type to understand the complexities of teenage emotions, especially not the ones Sam and I were grappling with. My family, on the other hand, was oblivious. They thought Sam was just another one of my friends, and that made things easier, at least for a while. But as time passed, the pressure began to build. Sam had started dating someone from school, a guy named Eric. It took me by surprise, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I knew Sam liked him, but I also knew that her feelings for me hadn't gone away. It was like she was trying to figure out where she fit in the world, and Eric was a part of that process. I didn't blame her, but it hurt all the same. One evening, after weeks of watching Sam and Eric together, I finally worked up the courage to ask her about it. We were sitting in my room, the late afternoon light casting long shadows on the floor. "Are you happy with him?" I asked quietly. Sam looked startled by the question, and for a moment she didn't say anything. Then she sighed. "I don't know," she admitted. "I like him, I guess. But it's not the same as what I feel with you." My heart did a somersault. I had always wondered if she felt the same intensity that I did, and hearing her say it out loud made my emotions bubble to the surface. "Then why are you with him?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sam stared at the floor, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "Because it's easier," she said softly. "It's easier to be with him than to face what this is, what we are." Her words cut deep, but I understood. I had felt that same fear, that same desire to avoid the hard truths. But the reality was we couldn't keep avoiding it forever. "You don't have to be afraid, Sam," I said, reaching out to touch her hand. "I'm not going anywhere." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "But what if it's too much? What if this changes everything?" I smiled even though my heart ached. "It's already changed everything." For a long moment we sat there, the weight of our words hanging in the air. Then Sam leaned in, and without thinking I kissed her. It was soft and tentative, like we were both testing the waters. When we pulled away, neither of us said anything. But we didn't need to. We both knew in that moment that nothing would ever be the same. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Sam broke up with Eric, and we started spending even more time together, though we kept our relationship quiet. It wasn't that we were ashamed, but we weren't ready to face the judgment of the outside world. We didn't owe anyone an explanation, and that was enough for us. But as much as we tried to keep our relationship a secret, people began to notice. Lila was the first to figure it out. One afternoon, she pulled me aside after school, her expression serious. "You and Sam," she started, hesitating for a moment. "Are you together?" I froze, unsure of what to say. Lila was my best friend, but I didn't know how she would react. Finally, I nodded. "Yeah, we are." For a moment, Lila just stared at me. Then, to my surprise, she smiled. "I figured," she said, her tone light. "I'm happy for you." Relief washed over me and I smiled back. Thanks. From that point on, things became easier. Lila was supportive, and while we still kept our relationship private, I no longer felt like I was hiding a part of myself. Sam and I continued to navigate the ups and downs of high school together, facing each challenge as it came. We weren't perfect and we still had a lot to figure out, but we knew one thing for sure: we had each other. And as long as we had that, we could face anything.